Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. I'm Susan Guiazda. On today's show, we check in with the Water Department. My guest today is Water and Pollution Control Director John Dunn. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, there's been a lot of things going on in your department recently. The one that the public's probably most looking forward to is an open house.
Yeah, we're going to hold an open house at the water treatment plant at the end of April. It's going to be on Saturday, April 26th, between 10 a.m., 2 p.m. All kinds of opportunities going to be there, a lot of educational things. The highlight really is going to be the tours of the water plant, where folks will get a chance to get inside, see parts of the utility that under normal days the public doesn't have access to. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
A lot of history at the water plant. I don't know that people realize how long Ames residents have received their water from a utility.
Yeah, the Ames water utility actually started in 1891, and a lot of folks may not realize that it actually started not for drinking water purposes but for fire protection. There had been a sort of a Mrs. O'Leary's cow type of a fire in downtown Ames, and the businesses petitioned the city council to create a fire protection system. And so that was really the origin of where the current water utility started.
Even the current facility there at the end of 5th Street has a long history. That's a fairly substantially old building.
Yeah, it is. The oldest parts of the facility that are still in use were constructed in 1924. So 90 years worth of life out of that facility.
And I know that you're going to celebrate the history of the water plant at the open house and sort of bring up all that history and those facts and figures from the past.
Yeah, what we want to showcase is how the Ames water utility has really grown up with the rest of the city, as we celebrate the sesquicentennial this year, and just kind of show some of the milestones, how the city grew and how the water utility grew up with it. It's really pretty fascinating to see.
Well, and there's been some great things that have happened lately. You have new elevated tanks. You have distribution that's growing. It's a very busy place to be working.
Yeah, it is, and the utilities have kind of an obligation to stay, maybe not a whole step, but at least about a half a step ahead of the growth in the community, so that we're there ready to support whatever need arises.
What is the current capacity of the water plant?
The current plant has a capacity of around 11.5 million gallons per day, and currently we've seen peak day demands right around 10 million gallons per day. So not firmly up against the limit, but starting to get close.
So without future planning, it really would be possible to turn your tap on and not get any water out of it?
Not without an awful lot of conservation. If you don't build new capacity, then you've got to make the volume that you've got stretch farther, and that's where the conservation role really comes in.
And we talk a lot about conservation in your area, water being a limited resource. So in addition to planning for the future, as you have a water plant on the horizon, you also focus on conservation. But first, let's talk about the future plans.
Yeah, the design for that new facility wrapped up in late March. And through the summer of 2014, we're going to go through permitting with the Department of Natural Resources. And once that's resolved, we anticipate that we'll probably be out for bids in maybe June or July, and groundbreaking on that facility will start hopefully September of this year.
That's great. The site itself has been marked with a sign. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it on East 13th Street. Really an advantageous location from the from your perspective.
Yeah, there's a whole list of things that really make that site preferable. In terms of hydraulics, the elevation of that facility is within about 5 feet of the existing water plant, which means that all of the pumps and the wells are already set to provide water to that site. So that's a big advantage. Its proximity to the existing water plant allows us to reuse some of the infrastructure in place, and that's a savings of several millions of dollars worth of infrastructure that we would otherwise have to construct. And plus the fact that the site was there, it was vacant, it was already being used by another governmental entity, the USDA, so we were able to take property that was not already on the tax rolls, so we weren't impacting the community in that way either. Just a whole bunch of reasons that really made that a really attractive site.
Now, you won't completely vacate the current building. What happens on your current campus?
Yeah, for folks who are familiar with the site, there's a two-story brick building really that sits right at the end of 5th Street where it dead ends. That brick building was built in the early 1990s, and it houses the water meter division and the laboratory. That building is going to remain. That's in really good shape, and those folks have pretty good quarters there, so they're going to remain. But the administrative offices and then all of the treatment function of the facility will be shifting to the new site. The new plant, once it comes online and we get through sort of a break-in period and we're comfortable that it's doing what it needs to do, at that point then we'll begin discussing the demolition of the old facility.
So really, to go on a tour on April 26th might be the last time you'd see some of these things.
Most likely it will be the last time that we'll hold a public open house there while the facility is still in operation.
Now, the capacity of the new plant is higher.
It is higher. It's going to be 15 million gallons per day, so that's about a 25% increase in capacity. And the building and the site have been laid out so that we can do 2 additional 5 million gallon per day increments, so that we could take that facility all the way up to 25 million gallons per day, which would be more than double what our current capacity is. So the site's really set for several generations to come.
So planning for the next century or so.
But yeah, somewhere in that area.
Yeah. We talked a little bit briefly about conservation. Conservation has always been part of your public outreach, part of the message that you tried to share with the residents. Why is water conservation so important?
Well, water is a limited resource, and we don't have the advantage of being on a large river in Ames area. People who have been here more than a year have seen those rivers go dry. And so we are dependent on a groundwater source, and it is a limited resource. It's a pretty productive aquifer, but it's not infinite. And so stretching that as far as we can, first just from a stewardship perspective, it's the right thing to do for the sustainability of the community. But it's also got a financial impact as well. It costs money to add this new capacity. The new water treatment plant coming online is about a $75 million investment. And so we want to make sure that we don't have to make those $75 million investments every 15 or 20 years. And a big part of that is, as I discussed earlier, stretching that water as far as we can. And so conservation becomes really, really important for us.
So conservation also, for a bill payer, affects your bottom line. It's in your best interest to conserve.
Yeah, it is. And the peak demands for us come in the summer, driven in almost in entirety by irrigation, outdoor lawn watering. And we do have a seasonal rate structure so that the water is more expensive in the summer than it would be in the winter. And particularly for residential and irrigation accounts, it's a block structure, so the more water you use, it becomes progressively more expensive. So there is a financial incentive as well as that sustainability incentive to not use more than you need.
And certainly the message is not, we don't want you to have a garden, we don't want you to have an aesthetically pleasing yard. I think the message has always been to be prudent.
Yeah, that's right. And our marketing campaign that we use is called Smart Water, and it's because we want people to use the resource in a smart way. We've never told people don't irrigate, but we do want to educate them on the fact that a healthy, well-established lawn only needs 1 inch of water per week. And if you're putting more water on than that, you may actually be damaging your lawn by preventing the roots from going deep. And I joke a lot of times, but I remind people it doesn't matter how much you water your sidewalk, you're not going to grow any more concrete. So you need to make sure that when you put sprinklers out, or if you've got an irrigation system, that they're set so that the water's going where it's going to provide a benefit and not just being wasted by running down the curb.
And when you set your sprinkler up at noon, you're probably losing a lot of your water as well.
Yeah, if you're watering at noon on a hot day, there's a lot of evaporation taking place. Really the best time to water would be in the early morning. That way it won't evaporate as much, the plants have a chance to take it up, and it's also healthier for your plant because the blades of grass will then dry out, where if you're watering in the evening and you've got wet grass over the overnight hours, you might started experiencing some fungus or other turf diseases.
So one last thing I wanted to touch on, we talk about investing in infrastructure and planning for the future. Part of your role as director is you're not just over water, but you're also over the sewer system. Explain a little bit about some changes in investments in infrastructure that will affect the utility bill payer.
Yeah, there's a couple of things going on the wastewater utility. We've got a need for investment in the treatment facility itself. That facility came online in 1989, so it's almost 25 years
And
now.
people might not know where that's located. It's
Yeah.
not in town.
No, it's not in town. It's about 4 miles south of Ames. If you're coming to Ames from the south, coming along Interstate 35, right before you get to the Skunk River, you'll see it off on the east side of the interstate. You'll see just the top of it over the hills. But that facility, it's got some maintenance needs to keep it operational. Certainly it continues to respond to new environmental requirements that are placed on the facility. We're actually completing right now about a $2.5 million ultraviolet disinfection upgrade to the facility. So that's driving a part of it. Also is the collection system that gets the wastewater from homes and businesses to the plant at that location. The city's Public Works Department is concluding a multi-year comprehensive evaluation of the sewer system, where they have inspected and graded the condition of every pipe in the community. And what that has revealed is that there is several millions of dollars worth of work that needs to take place. And the capital improvements plan for the sewer system now includes about $3.5 million a year for several years to go in and rehabilitate that pipe and make repairs where
And I
needed.
don't think people realize how old some of that infrastructure is.
Yeah, it's underground, it's out of sight. Some of those pipes probably date back to the very, very early years of the Ames community. And it's just important that we get in there and we upgrade them. It helps keep clear water from getting into the sewers. That's important for preserving the capacity of that facility. Protecting the capacity or the integrity of the system also prevents the wastewater from leaking out into the environment, which is also something that we very much need to avoid doing. And so this investment into that sanitary sewer system it comes with a price tag. And in order to help fund that, the Ames City Council has been asked to implement an 8% increase in sewer rates effective this July 1st.
And sewer rates are dependent on, and when you get your utility bill, how do you know how much sewer you're using?
Well, it would show on the bill as the sewer charge. For probably 95% or more of our customers, the amount they pay for sewer is based on the amount of water that they use. So it's based on their water meter reading.
So again, you work in partnership a lot with the Public Works Department, both of you sort of focusing on a different aspect of the water and sewer distribution. How does that partnership work?
The collection system is maintained by the Public Works crews. So they basically take care of getting it from the customer's house to the treatment facility. And then my department would actually take over then the treatment of it and making sure that it complies with all the necessary environmental regulations before it's released back into the environment.
So a lot of partnership. You mentioned the testing that the Public Works Department has done. I think a lot of people were familiar with that through the smoke testing that was going on. That was a very visible kind of project. That has wrapped up?
Yeah, it's very near completion. A part that the public probably didn't see is at the wastewater facility. We were doing an evaluation of that facility as well, and the two pieces are really going to work in tandem. Looking at where is it most cost effective for the community. Is it to add additional capacity at the treatment plant to treat all of the extra clear water that would get in the sewer, or is it more cost effective to repair the sewers and keep the water out in the first place? And the conclusion is that repairing the sewers is really where the investment in infrastructure needs to take place.
Okay. So investing in the future does cost money, but it's very important.
Oh, certainly it's crucial to the long-term health of the community. If you just stop and think what life would be like in a city the size of Ames if there was no available drinking water system, or if there was no sanitary sewer system, it just simply would not be possible to live the lifestyle that we do.
And I don't think anybody would like to live in a place like that. So I know it's tough when those utility bills come in and they're higher than maybe the year before. Again, it's just investing in the future.
Exactly right.
Well, John, you obviously have a lot of stuff going on. Again, that water plant open house, when is that?
It's going to be on Saturday, April 26th, 10 to 2, and the address is 300 East 5th Street, just immediately east of Bandshell Park.
Well, I'm sure you'll have a lot of people that are really interested in visiting that water plant, perhaps the last time.
Yes.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Well, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, don't forget that Homewood Golf Course is open, and you can do tee times online. Also remember, you can now watch Channel 12 from your tablet or smartphone. For more information about what's going on at the City of Ames, don't forget to check us out on our website, cityofames.org, or on Facebook or Twitter. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.